And these girls like to do those things.
Polygamous cult leader and self-proclaimed prophet Sam Bateman speaking out, representing himself in court as he faces a slew of child abuse charges out of Arizona.
But I'm just saying that I'm a kind and loving father. That's just what I am. I'm very kind and gentle.
We're breaking down the charges against Bateman and taking you inside the courtroom where his defense has only just begun.
I guess what I'm trying to prove to you is that I don't harm people. I'm kind and gentle. It's just my very nature.
This is Scandal, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Gillespie. For the first time, we're hearing from polygamous cult leader Sam Bateman himself, the same man convicted of dozens of federal sex crimes after years of grooming, sexually assaulting, and illegally marrying child brides. Now, Bateman is back in court on a new set of charges, and here's what he has to say for himself.
And I don't ever willingly harm anybody. I don't even spank my children or anything like that, so...
Question 10. Do you consider yourself a prophet?
Objection, relevance, pretrial motions, sustained.
We're also hearing from Bateman's former followers who paint a bleak picture of life with a self-proclaimed prophet.
Once I had gotten that assignment, I knew I had to be exactly where I was supposed to be, or I was going to be in trouble.
In an interesting twist of fate, Bateman chose to act as his own attorney, meaning when his Arizona state case began earlier this week, it was Sam Bateman himself who presented an opening statement to a jury of his peers. And I'm not here to undermine the judicial system in any way, but I'm just guessing that most of the jurors, Sam Bateman's peers, have lived a much different life than the one Sam Bateman has led. And these are simply just the facts. Sam Bateman has been convicted of dozens of federal crimes stemming from his illegal activity as a so-called prophet in a sect of the FLDS, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Not to be confused with the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints, the FLDS is a more secretive group that continues to practice polygamy. And you may be familiar with sects of the FLDS, like the one headed by cult leader Warren Jeffs, who is now serving a life sentence plus 20 years for child sex crimes. Warren Jeffs is arguably the most infamous FLDS leader, but Sam Bateman is likely coming in at a close second. Bateman started amassing followers back in 2019. Over the following years, he began to convince his followers to give away their minor daughters to serve as his child brides. This is straight from a release from the United States Attorney's Office. It reads, quote, Bateman, who represented himself as a religious prophet, was the leader of a years-long child sexual abuse conspiracy that spanned several states and victimized at least 10 children. Beginning in 2019, Bateman amassed followers in Arizona, Utah, Colorado, and Nebraska. Bateman's followers gave their minor daughters and wards to him as child brides to sexually abuse. The victims were as young as 9 years old. All of this came to light back in 2022 when Bateman was arrested in Flagstaff, Arizona. At the time, I reported on his arrest, and the video literally has hundreds of thousands of views. And I think that's because the allegations against Bateman were truly so shocking. First responders arrested him after he was found driving along the highway pulling a trailer with 3 young girls inside, and the body camera video went viral.
So you're under arrest for endangerment, okay? You're going to go through the Coconino County Jail right down the street here in Flagstaff.
All this really opened a can of worms. On September 1st, 2022, Bateman was officially indicted with state charges of child abuse. But that case went on hold as just days later, on September 6th, 2022, he was indicted on federal charges. Things got even weirder when, from inside a prison holding cell, Bateman conspired with his outside followers to kidnap child victims from foster care. The first superseding indictment came down a month later, and a second superseding indictment came down in May of 2023. The following April, Sam Bateman pleaded guilty to more than 50 individual federal charges. Here's how they break down. 18 counts of using interstate commerce to entice minors to engage in sexual activity, 12 counts of transporting minors to engage in sexual activity, 1 count of production of child pornography, one more count of transfer of obscene materials to minors, another count of conspiracy to commit kidnapping, one count of straight kidnapping, another count of conspiracy to tamper with an official proceeding, another count of tamper with unofficial proceeding, one more count of conspiracy to destroy evidence, and a final count of destruction of evidence. In all, 11 people were charged in this case, Sam plus 10 co-defendants. 9 of the others took plea deals, and 2 more were found guilty when their cases went to trial. In 2024, Sam Bateman was officially sentenced to 50 years in federal prison, plus a lifetime of supervised release. But that's not where the story ends. In fact, it's just where this episode begins, because this week, Sam Bateman's state charges were finally brought to trial. He faces multiple charges of child abuse for allegedly knowingly endangering 3 young girls by driving with them in the back of his trailer, the same incident for which he was initially arrested in 2022.
We're out here because there is supposedly people back there.
How many other people in the truck? How many other people are in the truck?
Any information I give can and will be held against you.
Well, I just want to know who's inside the truck right now, so that way I know who else we're dealing with here. Or else I'm going to call everybody out.
As you can see, it's a pretty serious deal here, sir.
At that intersection, there was fingers out the door, so there's people in the trailer. It sounds like someone's in there.
Bateman pleaded not guilty to these charges out of Arizona, and on Wednesday, the state case against Bateman began, but not for those child sex crimes he's become infamous for.
These charges are 3 counts of child abuse, and that's what this case was, the state would submit to you. It was child abuse. Placing these 3 young girls, not adults with independence, in a situation where in any common driving scenario, a bump in the road, a sudden stop, or even a minor collision, there would be a risk of injury.
Prosecutors described the 3 young girls, ages 11, 12, and 14, stranded in the back of a trailer without air conditioning or ventilation as Bateman traveled upwards of 80 miles per hour down a busy highway.
And that's why, as you can see, shoved into the back of this cargo trailer, there was a makeshift bathroom with a toilet seat on top of a blue bucket with a black trash bag lining. With, as you can see on the sides, maroon or purple curtains for privacy. But that wasn't all. You can see numerous objects that were stuffed into this small trailer with these 3 young girls. Below the couch and folding chairs, there's a generator pictured here, as well as a stroller next to a gas tank, next to that generator, next to that toilet and couch. And right next to the fuel tank, 2 filled water jugs with loose spongy cables around them. And even a metal shovel behind the makeshift bathroom curtain. Any one of these objects on its own would have posed a risk of harm to these girls inside.
Prosecutors detailed a 3.5-hour grueling trip from Colorado City to Flagstaff, Arizona, saying at one point the young girls had to physically hold the trailer door shut. Now, after prosecutors played out pieces of the body camera recordings, it was time for Sam Bateman himself to address the jury. And that opening came with quite a few hiccups.
Okay, so first of all, I would ask that you would be patient with me because this is my first time. I don't really know what I'm doing. But I've prepared something here, so.
You can't hear it. All right, if you'll speak up louder, Mr. Bateman, let's test the microphone, just make sure that it's plenty loud. Okay, just speak louder, okay?
Okay.
And you might move it up further on your lapel so it catches you better.
Okay.
As you can see, it starts out with Bateman not really knowing what he's doing, at least in terms of using a microphone. His team has to help him out, and then he restarts his openings twice.
But I'm just saying that I'm a kind and loving father. That's just what I am. I'm very kind and gentle. And I don't ever willingly harm anybody. I don't even spank my children or anything like that, so.
Bateman tells jurors the state will never prove he had any intent to hurt the girls in the back of the trailer, and in fact, he stopped at the first sign of trouble. He even says he was shocked to learn they were back there in the first place.
I didn't know they were back there. Somebody told me they'd asked me, but I don't know if you've ever scheduled a trip or anything with a lot of people. You're busy, you don't know what's going on with 40 people. And somebody said that they'd asked me, but I didn't remember it, so I headed out. And when the officer pulled me over, he said, don't you have room in the front for me? I was just like, what are you talking about? Because I thought he was talking about little motorbikes or something. Those two little motorbikes. Why would he ask me to put those two little motorbikes up front? And then one of the girls in the passenger seat said, it's those three girls. I was like, oh my goodness, they're back there. So I guess what I'm trying to prove to you is that I don't harm people. I'm kind of gentle. It's just my very nature. I'm sympathetic and empathetic. I'm not a child abuser.
And then he makes a startling statement.
And I don't know if I really should mention this here, but I will not be calling any of these people to ask them questions. I care too much about their feelings, and I know I'll put pressure on them.
Later in the episode, you will hear from some of Bateman's former followers who the prosecution called. But before we get into that, Bateman has a few more hiccups in his openings, with prosecutors objecting and approaching the bench at least twice. But here's how he ends it all.
Okay, thank you. So another thing I'd like to mention is if they had a cell phone and they were really in danger, they could have easily called 911, but they didn't. So they really didn't feel like they were in danger either. Matter of fact, they begged and begged to get back there. Like I say, it was a dumb. I should have done it there, you know. One last question, or one last reiteration is, I just ask you to hear all the testimony and evidence before you make your ruling. And one other question, or one other statement I mentioned, we did stop several times along the way, and they could get out. We'd get stuff out of the trailer, we'd carry our stuff in the trailer, a lot of it, because the vehicles were so full of people.
The first few witnesses called by the prosecution are first responders from the August 2022 incident.
It was reported that there was a white box trailer with kids and people coming out of it from different directions, random places, that was being followed by a gray GMC Denali.
Can you explain what was the reason that you would consider that unsafe?
There were multiple reasons. There's no seat belts on those side-by-sides. The side-by-side secured only from the front. If they were to get into a head-on collision, that side-by-side is going forward with those girls still in the side-by-side. If they were to roll, the three girls would be ejected from that vehicle, which would cause even more serious injury, if not death. There's multiple reasons why that's unsafe.
All right, and when you were interacting with the defendant during this traffic stop, did you warn him not to do this type of thing again?
Yes, I did.
On day 2 of the trial, jurors heard from some of Bateman's former followers, starting with Naomi. Now, if you followed the case from the beginning, you probably remember her from my early reporting.
Are you Naomi?
Yes.
Okay, he's giving you permission to take the vehicle.
Okay. Do you have a...
Comfortable with that?
Yes, but isn't he coming?
Naomi was there the day of the incident and testified about her experience on Thursday.
And did Sam have those girls, was he in charge of those girls at the time? Yes. Did he decide where they would ride, what they would do, where they would go, those kinds of things?
Yes. When we headed out, then he didn't latch it. He didn't secure the door. And so when we pulled onto the freeway, it wasn't completely shut.
Okay. And did Sam know that it wasn't completely shut?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
I think it was that came over the phone and told him.
And did you have an understanding of what to do at this point in time?
She was holding the door, and she stated that she was holding the door.
Okay. And was that on the phone with Sam?
Yes.
At that point in time, did Sam pull over at the first available opportunity?
No, not to my recollection. That was when we started being followed, and he sped up.
Okay, tell us a bit more about that.
He sped up and more police started chasing. I don't remember exactly how the events that transpired, but I do remember us in the cab just silent, and then I remember them talking over the phone. I remember coming over the phone and saying the door was getting really hard to hold, and then I remembered coming off the freeway. There was a really sharp turn somewhere there. And he was going significantly fast on that turn, and it was quite scary for them.
Was Sam in charge?
Repeat that?
Was Sam in charge of this situation?
Yes.
All right. And thinking about it now, do you have any kind of point of view in terms of the safety of those girls being in that trailer?
Yes, now I do. It was very dangerous. They could have, at any point, the door could have flown open and they would have lost their lives.
Another one of Bateman's former followers, Marona Rose Johnson, also took the stand, describing her relationship and her role within the cult.
In terms of being overall like the leader, was that him?
Yes.
And I asked about the group generally, but you specifically, would you do what he told you in those days?
Yes. So he had assigned me to ride passenger seat. Once I had gotten that assignment, I knew I had to be exactly where I was supposed to be, or I was going to be in trouble. So I was kind of, gathering up everything as quickly as possible.
Marona says she was forced to follow Bateman's directions that day in August 2022, but knew the conditions inside the trailer were not safe.
Was it a trailer that was designed for carrying people?
No, it wasn't.
All right. And in this situation, though, were there some things back there that made it so that, well, for example, was there a toilet situation happening?
Yes, there was a bucket with a toilet seat lid that we had used for camping. There was also 2 recliner chairs back there, which I believe is the reason the girls wanted to ride back there in the first place. They could lounge in the chairs while driving.
But the worst part happened when one of the trailer doors began to open as Bateman was driving.
We got back onto the 89 and started traveling. There was a group signal call going on. Was on the call telling Sam that the doors are not shut and we don't feel safe back here. And he said, hold them shut and I'll find somewhere to pull off. And then he continued to get on the freeway.
So in other words, did he, upon learning of this situation, did he pull off at the first available opportunity?
No, he did not.
He got onto a freeway.
Yes, he did.
High rate of speed?
Yes, 70, 80 miles an hour.
Bateman himself also took the stand as a witness in his own defense. And right from the start, the prosecution hit him with objection after objection.
Question number 1. Are you a religious person?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Question number 2. Do you feel that you were targeted in this case?
I do. Objection, relevance is opinion about that.
Sustained. And the jury is directed to disregard the last answer and the question.
Question 10. Do you consider yourself a prophet?
Objection, relevance, pretrial motions.
Sustained.
Do you think that it's possible that an individual or an organization may have some prejudice against you or the Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Have you become aware at any point of a so-called vendetta against you from any law enforcement agency or other organization?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
Question 39. What are a few of the core teachings of the Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints?
Objection and relevance.
Sustained.
More than an hour into the testimony, Bateman almost gets frustrated, begging for an explainer of all the objections.
Can you explain to me what I'm doing wrong?
I'll have everyone approach the bench.
After continuous objections from the state, Bateman finally gets into a rhythm of answering questions without interruption. He admits it's possible not all the victims' parents knew their underage daughters were being transported across state lines, and finally explains why he didn't stop the vehicle at the first sign of trouble.
Once you were notified by phone the trailer door was not fully locked, why did you not immediately pull over?
Because I would have smashed into the guardrail of the off-ramp.
Next, did you take the trailer because there was no room for the girls in the cars?
Absolutely not. There may not have been plenty of room, but there was room for everyone.
Why was the trailer taken on this trip since you weren't camping?
Several reasons, because it's just nice to have all that different stuff when you have such a large group of people. And also when you're traveling with children, I'm sure you have children know that when a child needs a potty break, then you can't always find a convenience store, so we took that. That's what the porta potty was for.
At the time of this recording, the trial is still ongoing. We'll continue to follow the case and bring you the latest developments straight from the courtroom. And that is where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you like what you saw and you want to see more or connect with me on social media, you can find me on places like Instagram at Sierra Gillespie. Thanks for watching today's episode of Scandal. As always, I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.